always like your thumbnail work, and this week is no exception.
Thank you. I follow a template.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a three panel.
It always ends up looking pretty good.
Yeah. The amount of work I put into it is finding the right pictures, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
And most of that is done through a simple Google search.
You have a good eye for picking the pictures, I guess.
Well, thank you. I don't know how to accept compliments, so I would really prefer that you stop.
Okay.
Calm down, Mr. Lightsaber.
It can't. It desires to be ignited and slice down some Sith or something.
It yearns to be free.
That too. I mean, don't we all?
You know what? We'll do a blue sky post if I can figure out where blue sky is.
The app that is incredibly unoptimized for landscape tablets.
Yeah. Oh, I have a notification. Oh, we have a new follower. Shit.
Oh, well,
I'm gonna go follow them back.
I think that might be Sean.
Who?
I mean, look at the...
Oh, the Sean that we know?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh my god.
I will get to the bottom of that. All right, shall we start?
I think we should.
All right. Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is the weekly episode of Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is a podcast where most of the time we talk about Star Wars.
Except now there isn't any Star Wars. There's no shows, there's no movies, there isn't even any news.
There's no like clickbait news even.
Yeah.
There's not Sam Jackson says he would come back to Star Wars. I mean, and then which ignites an entire Mace Windu is still alive craze. There's none of that this week even.
I mean, I'm sure the usual suspects are still claiming Kathleen Kennedy's going to be fired any day now. And
yeah, well, I mean, like Mike Zero puts out like 12 videos a day, so
I don't know how he does it, and I don't think I want to know.
I don't think I care. We are talking today though about Severance season 2 episode 6, Attila, which was another really cool episode. Invincible season 3 episode 5. And then the 2-episode finale for Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which was also a lot of fun. I'm glad I ended up watching that show because I wasn't so crazy about it, and like Spider-Man isn't really my favorite Marvel hero anyway. But I'm glad I watched it. It was really cool. Also, that opening like song is kind of catchy, because they use the Spider-Man theme.
It is. My enjoyment of it decreases just about every time I listen to it. Like at the start, I really liked it, but it kind of falls off in my mind.
I think my personal evolution is the opposite of that. At first, I was like, and then at the end, I'm like, damn, like this kind of slaps a little bit. While you're here, by the way, you should go follow us on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, and Blue Sky. We're on all of those things. We'd love to hear from you. This is also, in addition to there being a podcast release of this on YouTube in a couple of days, this is filmed live in front of a studio audience.
And by studio audience, we mean
you.
You.
If you're watching it live right now, and if you're not a part of the studio audience, there's nothing I can do about that. However, if you are here watching live, please feel free to drop something in the comments. We'll read it between segments and
just generally whenever it makes sense.
Yeah. Also, speaking of Star Wars content creators, my friend Cody at Star Wars Doctrine put together this Battlefront 2 day, which is actually a weekend, yesterday and today. In our group chat, he was like, "Oh, God, we should all come back to Battlefront 2."
You're like, "Do not speak to me in the old texts. I never left."
I was like, "We never left," and he's like, "I know, I love that about you guys." But he's kind of been doing, like, telling us about this event, and I think they've been streaming Battlefront all day today. So after this at 7, we'll be streaming some Battlefront with my friend Ben and one of the guys from Gremlin Squad. I think Monty probably. So come and check that out. It'll be a lot of fun. In fact, the other day, we had this really rare circumstances that came together, which was that ordinarily we have like 4 or 5 guys that will play at different times, but sometimes people aren't available and sometimes people are, and we usually scrape together like a 4-man team for HPV. The other day, for some reason, all of the people on the list were available. So we did HPV, but then we extended our Starfighters time and had like a 6-man a Starfighter squad, which was a lot of fun. So I don't know if we'll be able to do that today, but we will be playing Starfighters. So anything else you want to add before we get into this?
No, I don't think so.
Well, let's get going because we almost always go over on these, and I want to make sure we get done in time to switch and everything. So
Severance.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, by the way, if you've been watching Severance, good for you. If you've not seen this week's episode, go watch it because we're going to spoil it. And I don't even want to do like a spoiler-free thing because there's so much shit in every episode that's like really important, and you can't tell what stuff is, it's like, should I be paying attention right now? And it's just like a shot of a wall or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is hidden? What is the hidden thing in this?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of show. But we're talking about season 2, episode 6, Attila, which had a really ominous title. Because they've listed all the titles of the episodes already. And so, like, looking ahead, I was like, Attila, what the fuck's that about? And it was as weird. It's funny how things in this show happen, and you expect that they're weird, but you don't know how. And there's no way you can predict how it is weird, right? So we'll be getting to the why it's called Attila. But this opens on Mark having a conversation with Bragabi. Is that her name? Bragabi.
Anyway, this is like literally seconds after the previous episode ended.
Right, yeah, because the previous episode, Mark had a little brain
glitch where he saw the severed floor and then saw his wife.
Yeah, and his wife was doing that thing where, so they do the wellness sessions, right?
Your Audi pays his taxes on time.
Yes.
Your Audi always leaves a big tip at restaurants.
Right. And the weird thing about last week was that she started saying the facts in like future tense, I think. Like, your Audi will do these things. And it was very strange. But Mark's having a conversation with Ragabi about it. And he's like, first of all, why is she saying a bunch of random shit about how many ice cream scoops I like and how I pay my bills within 3 days? And she's like, I don't fucking know. It sounds like some weird severed shit to me. However, I do know that she is essential. And like, there's a whole mystery, obviously, surrounding Mark and surrounding Miss Casey, which isn't even her name.
Yeah.
Probably. And this is one of those things where I bet that they've already planned it out and there's going to be a payoff and it's going to be really cool. But the only thing we know about her is that she supposedly died in a car accident. And I wonder, and there's this other thing too that we'll talk about when we get there. I've seen a couple of conspiracy theories about having, like, we'll get to it when we get to it. So he also, like, so he describes the gray hallway, right? And he's like, yeah, there's an elevator that only goes down, which is kind of ominous, actually. You think about the people going down there and never coming back up again.
Well, they might take another elevator up.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Or the stairs.
Maybe there's one that only goes up.
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck that is. And he has this really kind of like...
It is mysterious and important.
Yeah, the work is mysterious and important. He talks to her about...
the stages of grief.
Yeah, because he would be familiar with that, and he specifically talks about bargaining, which like if you're watching and you're not sure, I'm sure everyone knows about like the different stages of grief, which we know aren't sequential. They can all happen at once, or they can all like happen out of order and stuff. But he talks about bargaining, which is this idea that you say, well, if I can have them back, I'll do this.
I will do this. I will change this about myself. I will give up that.
And it's irrational when you're looking at it through the lens of losing someone, like someone who's died, obviously. And the point that Mark's making that's really interesting is it's not irrational for me anymore because she's alive.
Yeah.
And so now all these bargaining things feel real, right? And that's just one of those writing things where a lot of thought has obviously gone into the script and the writing of this show, and the like looking at his grief through that lens and everything, and how he's just like, he doesn't even know how to process the fact that she's alive, and it's really crazy. So Mark and Helen, the real Helly, the real Helly, and Dylan all hang out because they have like that kitchenette thing in MDR, and Mark opens the fridge, and
well, first they're talking like Dylan's telling him, Irving said hang in there, and I looked under the poster, and there was this drawing of the black hallway with the elevator where it only has the down arrow,
right?
And on the other side there were directions, and Helly was like, "Great, let's go fucking get that.
Give it to me.
We'll follow the map. We'll go figure out what's going on." Dylan's like, "Hell no, I'm not going there.
Yeah.
I like my perks."
In fact.
They have found the one perk that will keep my ass at that desk.
Yeah. So because she asks for the piece of paper, and he's like, I didn't fucking take it. It's still
what are the chances it's still there?
I thought maybe that I would leave it there for a different reason, so that if someone found it, they wouldn't know that I had found it as well. Right. Or like maybe my line of thought would be maybe they put that there and they're checking to see if someone took it. Right.
Okay. Yeah. Fair.
I think he just doesn't want to lose his hangout time with his Audi's wife.
That's where I am too.
And he makes a small mention of that to them, that they're like, they don't know everything about like his motives and shit. And it's just like, Dylan, come on, man. Like, I'm not surprised by this, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm a little disappointed, but I'm not surprised, because you might remember that in the first season, we talked about how like all the characters have like those breaking points where like Irving, it was Bert getting retired.
Yep.
And Helly was just ready to burn everything down because she didn't want to be there. And how Dylan's moment where he breaks was finding out that he had kids.
Yeah.
And them doing the dance party and him just exploding and screaming, I want to see my kids, right? And so like it's obvious that Dylan, like there's some kind of inherent feeling where he is very attached to that idea of his kids. In fact, he even brings it up in their little visit later on. So Mark looks in the fridge and it starts to glitch out, and he sees the little vials of, is it breast milk?
Whatever the fuck.
Is it? We don't know what the fuck it is. And it turns out, I found out that a really neat detail is that apparently the Audis do meal requests at the beginning of every week. And then the Lumen has their lunches put in the fridge for them.
Oh.
Yeah. And because you see like those like Panera looking bags and shit in there. And so it switches between that and his fridge at home. And then he starts to look around, and like the little table where the printer is like switches to his like table in his living room, and the couch like switches and shit.
Well, what I thought was really cool is that the couch in MDR and then the couch in his house are like close enough to the same that like
are they similar?
Yeah, the entire room glitches around it, and like the couch stays the same.
That is pretty interesting. Yeah.
I don't know that it's important at all, but it's a cool visual effect.
That's what I'm saying, man. What is important? No, none of us know. So they kind of like, I think they ask him if he's all right.
Well, Dylan has left to go back to his desk. Helly's like, dude, are you okay?
What the fuck's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, like let's go fucking find this map and get this shit figured out.
So Mrs. Wong meets with Milchick.
Miss Wong.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Right. She's 12. It's not Mrs. Wong.
Yeah.
So you might remember that Milchick had a really
his performance review.
Yes. And one of the things I bet has just been stuck in his craw the entire time is this criticism that he uses words that are too big.
Yes, he uses big words. He paperclips his reports the wrong way.
Yeah.
And you also got Helena Egan almost drowned.
Yeah, he almost killed the boss's daughter. Yeah. So he tells her, he like sits her down and he's like, you cannot graduate from this fellowship until I determine you are Wintertide material. And I'm not sure what Wintertide is. I meant to actually look this up.
That's a lot of words that we don't know the full meaning of just yet.
Right. In fact, I'm wondering now if, because you might remember that in season 1, Cobell goes home and she has that shrine to Kier, and she has her mother's like breathing apparatus. And there are pictures of her, presumably her mother, at a girls' school. And I'm pretty sure that Wintertide is that school, maybe. And I haven't looked at if you know, mention it in the comments, because I'm not really sure if that's true or not. I didn't have time to look
that
into
would
it.
Sort of explain why they have a 12-year-old being assistant manager, because like maybe this is an internship, maybe, or else she just grew up in the cult and this is just what they do with
what they're like when when they're raised in it. Yeah, it's really weird. And he tells her, you must eradicate from your essence childish folly. And you can see Miss Wong being like, okay, so the big words haven't gone anywhere. I see. And that's where they leave it.
Yeah. Well, he says, I will be doing other things today.
Yeah.
I need you to watch the floor.
Yeah.
But you don't get to sit at my desk. Yeah. You have to sit at your desk.
I like how she like expectantly is like, I get to sit at the
takes
desk.
A step forward. She's like, ooh, really, really? He's like, no. He's like, go back to your desk.
Get the fuck away from my desk.
Oh.
So Mark and Helly hang out in the bathroom. Because why the fuck not?
Because
go to places I need
they
to
can
chat.
Be reasonably certain, or more certain than most places, that they're not going to be spied on.
Would you be certain that Lumen doesn't have cameras in the bathroom?
I would not. However, of all the places they could put cameras, they would have to be at least slightly more circumspect about where they put them in the bathroom, just to avoid really weirding people out.
Yeah. So Mark's like, okay, I might as well just get this out of the way. We fucked.
His initial attempt to say this is so awkward.
Sharing vessel.
Yeah. One thing the writers on this show do really well, they twist language.
Yeah.
So that like...
You fetid moppet.
Yeah, so that like everything the characters say technically makes sense in the context.
But why those words?
Yeah. Like they phrase it in the most weird, twisted way possible.
When Milchick tells them, he's like, the innies won't be bedeviling you anymore or whatever.
Yeah.
And I actually, now thinking about it, that's another one of those big words.
Yeah, like the Ortbo. The outdoor retreat and team building occurrence.
Why is it called an occurrence? Yeah, or because they do something similar with the dance experience. They tag the word experience on the end of it, and it doesn't it's just one too many words.
It's something about Lumen, I think, is that they just have this weird almost English that they just use words slightly differently. It's
just creepy. It comes off as very creepy.
Yeah, and that is 100% intentional. Yeah, I'm certain the writers know what they're doing with this.
I think you're right. So he's like, yeah, we banged, and then Helly's like, so you and Miss Casey? And he's like,
no.
No,
It was me and Helena.
Yeah, and Helly does not know how to process
No,
this.
she's not doing too well.
And they do this really neat thing where they have them both in the shot, and then they put Mark out of focus, and then focus the back of her head in the immediate I don't know,
foreground.
Yeah, foreground. And it's really cool. And the other cool thing about this shot too, I should have prepared a picture, is that he's leaning against the bathroom stall that is very shiny and has a reflection of him in it. The whole shot is really cool. It's very cleverly shot.
We've said it before. The cinematography on this show is
one of the best.
gorgeous.
It's one of the best. So the storytelling and the performances, I think, are enough to make it an amazing show. However, the frosting is how they use the cinematography to tell the story as well. And when you have all three of those elements going all at once, like it is really prime. It's so good. So Helly is like, I'm gonna go on a walk.
Yeah. Mark's like, but I thought she was you. So
she's like, I don't know if that makes it better. I don't know what I think. I'm gonna go on a walk.
I'm gonna go on a walk.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love about Helly's character so much is she has an intense hate for Helena, her outie. Which is kind of different from the other MDR guys who they're vaguely curious about their outies.
They're curious about like what their outies are like,
or
what their life is
like,
and what the world is like, because we know some of the innies have never even seen the sky. Most of them haven't.
Yeah, and the fact that
the fucking goat people were like, "Do you have pouches?"
Right. Yeah. They don't even know much about other human beings. Yeah. Which actually, now that I think about it, the sex between Helena and Mark had to have been a little awkward, right? Because you know that like on some level he's like, wait, are there other are there other adults that have pouches like from the real world? So she goes and takes a walk and she takes her shoes off, and it's one of those things where like I think it's one of the reasons that we picked up early on in the show in the second season that fake Felly wasn't actually Helly, because she has Helly, and it's a credit to this actor, by the way, that she when she's actually Helly, she does have this tangible anger at her outie, and you can feel it, like she's really pissed off, and we never really got that sense from Helena when she was down there.
It's a very subtle thing, but like when the actor is portraying Helly and when she's portraying Helena, she smiles differently.
Her whole face is different.
Yeah, like Helena's smile is really wide and bright, and Helly's is
and
kinda,
fake.
Yeah. Helly's is more narrow and like almost tentative. Like she's not sure that she wants to show how happy she is.
It's also a little more genuine, I feel sometimes, because it, like Helena's, you know, those people like Mr. Beast where their smiles don't quite reach their eyes. You know what I mean? Where they're smiling, but their eyes aren't smiling. That's how I kind of feel Helena is.
Helena would have grown up being not just the boss's daughter and the heiress to this company, but also the heir of like an entire cult.
The cult,
maybe.
Who was fully indoctrinated in all of it. Yeah.
So she would have been brought up with the expectation that like you can't show all your cards. You have to, you know, keep up this facade and also keep your real emotions inside. So that would explain why her smile is fake, because she's so used to putting on a smile even when she's not really happy. Yeah.
Okay, so Milchick has a little bit of alone time, and
he has a fucking breakdown.
Yeah, he so like there's a part of this that happens later on in the episode, but I'm just going to do it now because it all kind of happens in the same room. There is something that has created a chink in Milchick's armor.
He is really bothered by that performance review because he grabs an entire fucking jar of paper clips. He gets 2 stacks of paper and he just practices putting the two pieces of paper together, paper clipping it, puts it in a stack.
On the right side, yeah.
And he has like hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
And he just keeps practicing and doing this over and over and over.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure the performance review was like it didn't help at all. But I feel like Milchick might have. There was something kind of weird about him before then. I think it might have been when they gave them the Kier blackface art.
Yeah, that was also bugging him.
Yeah. So he practices his paper clips, which, to be fair, that's a really good way to make sure you do it right.
When he gets done, like his hands are shaking.
Yeah, he's right.
And the thing is, I don't know if that's just because he's angry
or anxious, maybe,
or anxious, or that he's been doing this really hard for really long.
Yeah, it's crazy. Then he has a conversation with himself in the mirror, and he's like, "This is where I guess I'm going to practice making my words shorter."
Yes.
And so he brings back that earlier quote that he said to Miss Wong when he said something about childish folly.
Must expunge yourself of.
Hold on, I wrote it down actually. You must eradicate from your essence childish folly.
There we go.
And then he keeps reducing it down. So he goes from there to grow up.
Yeah. And
then he goes from grow up to grow.
And he's just shouting this into the mirror over and over again.
And I have a feeling that like his psyche, I think, is just about ready to crack. Like there's something about him that I kind of feel like he's just going to implode.
He's barely holding it together. But on the other hand, like he's figured out the paperclip thing, so you can cross that off the list. He just figured out, smaller words, got that.
Yeah, and he's like, I'll never take the boss out to another Ortbo.
No more Ortbos, so Helly's not going to get drowned, so we're good. Addressed all my performance review.
So Dylan hangs out with his Audie's wife, and his Audie's wife likes any Dylan more than Audie Dylan, I think.
Yeah.
And she talks to him.
I think she feels kind of weird about it.
I think she does too. Yeah. I'm sure that it would feel a little bit like a betrayal to her if I were in her shoes, because she talks about how Audie Dylan. Actually, it's really funny. She talks about this, and when I was watching this with my partner John, he like looked over at me because I am a little like this too, where he has a bunch of different interests.
Yeah, he did woodworking. Yeah. He brewed beer in the garage.
And I've done at least 2 of these things on this list. Yeah. I didn't learn how to scuba dive yet, but like I've brewed a couple batches of beer, and I like to tinker with stuff and shit. And
Dylan's like, well, maybe he's just looking for something he's good at.
Yeah, and she's like, he's not good at anything. So he's like, you know what I would really like to do? I would like to hug. And she's like, okay. And so they have one of those awkward like,
yeah.
And then they hug, and they just start making out.
Yeah.
Now, the weird thing about this is that in their first meeting, Miss Wong was there to stop any kind of indiscretion, and she wasn't, which means that either she's busy running the floor, which I think she would have canceled this meeting if she couldn't supervise it directly. Like there's no way they're going to let them just meet without supervision, or this is the whole point of these meetings, is that Dylan is on the hook, right? Like hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
He's like, I got a pretty girl that likes to make out.
So like on the one hand, they have like the thing that Dylan really, really wants. They can incentivize him, keep him happy with this. And number 2, if they threaten to take it away, they have a way to, pull him back from any active rebellions.
Right. I think that's where this is eventually going, is that they're like, he's going to be about to do something, and they're going to be like, you'll never see your wife again. And I think that he'll probably make the choice to sacrifice seeing his wife to do whatever he wants to do.
I really like this scene because the 2 actors are portraying these. So you said the wife is thinking it's kind of awkward because she feels like this is sort of a betrayal.
Right.
But at the same time, like Dylan is, like at the very beginning of a relationship when the other person is like the most interesting person in the world
Sure.
to you, and you're just
and
completely fascinated by
all
them.
of your inhibitions and red flags don't work. Sure.
Yeah, and Dylan is seeing his wife like that, and I think she kind of likes that because
because he seems really into her. You're right. Yeah,
and like from what we see of their Audi's relationship, it's not.
They're going through the motions.
Yeah.
Sure. No. I think you're right. So Helly tells Mark, she's like, Mark, I would very much like to fuck now. And he's like, okay.
Well,
that sounds great.
She comes back and she's like, okay, Mark, it's really fucked up how Helena owns everything about my life.
Yes.
It's kind of fucked up that, she used my body to fuck you. And Mark is like...
And it's worse because I wanted to fuck you in the first place and she got to first.
Well,
and I don't like that.
He's like, would you like me to describe it? And she's like, no. I would not like her memories. I want my own memories. So let's go fuck.
Yeah. And I like how Mark's like, I don't think I can lose in this situation.
Yeah. Yes, okay. Sure.
And she's like, you know what? I know the perfect place. And he's like, you do? And she's like, yeah, follow me. And they find a room with a bunch of tables that have plastic sheeting over them, and they make a fort out of the plastic sheets, a fuck fort, and they fuck.
Yeah.
And
there's very clear verbal consent on both sides.
Right. And
which is very important. Always get consent before you fuck.
Yes. And there's something about it though that it's a little childish.
Yeah, because these are emotionally, I think, sort of children. Like they don't know very much. They haven't experienced very much outside of work.
Right. It is.
I mean, what?
Yeah, I don't
Mark's Innie has only been around for like 3 years, right? And Helly's has only been around for a couple months.
Right. Yeah.
So like, they are physically adults. They have intelligence and like an understanding of tab A goes in slot B, but they don't have that emotional experience of having a relationship and what all this involves.
Yeah, it is very strange. But you know what? I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys get to finally
it's
bone.
Cute. It's tender and kind of awkward, but like they're clearly into it and they're making it work.
Do you think that Mark could tell the difference between Helly and Helena?
I think so.
I bet he could.
Yeah.
He was like, when I slept with Helena, she kept saying these weird things about Kier, and she sang the Kier hymn the entire time, and I like this much better.
Yeah.
So in the hallways afterwards, Mark and Helly have a little kiss, and it's really cute, but Mark has a sudden nosebleed.
It's like, oh, your face is bleeding. And she's like, no, actually, your nose is bleeding.
Right. So they take him back to MDR, and apparently Miss Wong is also a doctor. Because she comes in with a kit and gloves.
Well, I thought it was Miss Huang's office they went to.
Was it? It might have been.
I think so.
Yeah.
And like she busts out a first aid kit and she's like got gauze up Mark's nose and she's like, "Would you like me to apply Vaseline to the inside of your nose?" And he's like, "No, that's kind of creepy."
In fact, don't ever ask me that again.
Yeah.
She's got her fucking stethoscope and she's got her the thing you do the blood pressure sphygmomanometer.
She's like, "I'm gonna check your blood pressure."
Yeah. Which, by the way, you can't check anyone's blood pressure through their suit jacket and shirt. Sorry. However,
not
that's okay.
Unless you have Lumen's super special.
Yeah, maybe it's a super special sphygmomanometer, which is exactly what that tool was called.
Specifically
by the way.
Designed by Kier.
Yeah.
To be able to check your blood pressure through your clothes.
Maybe that's what they're refining. It's like medical data from this really specific special blood pressure cuff. So she takes his vitals. And she seems a little suspicious about his symptoms. And she's like,
she like asks, have you had any hallucinations?
He's like, Mark, no. Why would you ask that?
No.
Maybe you're having hallucinations.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And then he has some hallucinations.
Yep. And does some glitching and doesn't know where he is or when he is.
Yep.
So it turns all of a sudden he is with Ragabi again. And she's like, okay, I have this great idea. Let's expedite the reintegration process where, first of all, and stick with me, Mark, because this is kind of weird. You already have a hole in your head. We just kind of covered it up with skin. We open that up and flood your brain with fluid, and we flood the chip. Great.
Yeah.
Right? And he's like, well, what bad things could happen? She's like, well,
you could have a cerebral hemorrhage.
Yeah, you could have a stroke. And he's like,
it's like, no, that's a very bad idea. I would like to not do
I don't
this.
think so. No. In fact, I'm very hungry.
Yes.
And she's like, that. I know that's a side effect of the reintegration. He's like, well, I'm going to go for Chinese.
Yes.
So, and she's like, well, I'm going to sit here and eat a whole fucking quart of ice cream. So Irving shows up at Bert's house, and holy fuck, this entire thing is so weird and so awkward, and it like there's shit happening here that that is like seriously impactful to the story. First of all, Fields is not played by the man that we saw in season 1 anymore. He's played by John Noble, who played Denethor in Lord of the Rings, the guy that ate the tomatoes. Yeah.
Oh, that's where I recognize him
right.
from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
you
see a mouth. You see that mouth with tomatoes that one time in Lord of the Rings, and you'll never forget his mouth again.
Though he looks better with short hair.
Yeah. So Bert and Fields have this bizarre relationship, and I'm not sure that they even like each other very much, because it feels like everything they say to one another is under the surface a little nick. Like they're sparring, it's a little nick, right?
I like how they explained that they'd called each other Hun for years, and eventually be turned into Attila.
Right. Hence the namesake of the episode. Yeah.
Which, on the surface, is a cute little pet name thing, but now that you mention that,
ominous.
Yeah. I wonder how much of that is saying like you are like this horrible ancient conqueror.
Yeah, bloodthirsty conqueror.
Yeah.
Within minutes of meeting, or within seconds of meeting Irving, Fields looks at him and says, "What's mine is yours." And you're like, "What the fuck are you talking
weird.
about?"
I mean, I guess it's not that much different from Mikasa is Tsukasa, but
a little more creepy.
Yeah,
it's another one of those things where it's like you could have used different words. So they have dinner, and they have Bert, played by the amazing Christopher Walken, lit in a way where half his face is in darkness the entire time. And this cannot be an accident.
There is nothing on this show that is an accident.
Right. And they kind of talk about different stuff, and they talk about how Bert came to Lumen, and he's like, so how'd you come to Lumen? He's like, through Jesus. And
this is the part where I was afraid the show was going to lose you.
Well... I think the second he said it, it was very interesting to me because this entire town is run by it's like a company town.
Yes.
And they don't strike me as Christians. They strike me as Kierists or whatever.
They're the cult of Kier.
Right. And I don't find that to be particularly compatible with Christianity. And so immediately I was like, really?
Okay.
So I like how Irving's like Jesus Christ? And he's like, yeah, Jesus Christ.
No, Jesus down at the taco stand.
He's like, we're fucking...
That was horribly racist. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was a little bit. You know what? We all have slip-ups from time to time. And he's like, yeah, we're Lutherans. And he's like, oh, okay. That's a little weird. So Bert talks about how he was a scoundrel in his youth. They have this whole conversation about going to heaven or hell. And... there's this idea that Fields got from their pastor that once someone is severed, they have two souls, and either soul can go to either heaven or hell. And so this is the big idea, was that apparently Bert was such a big piece of shit that...
they're hedging their bets here.
Right, so they're like...
If Bert's out, he doesn't go to heaven. Surely his innie will.
Yeah, and it's like, Bert... What did you do in your youth? When you say scoundrel, like what the actual fuck?
Did he kill someone?
I don't know. They do mention they mentioned taking a train to church, which I thought was very weird. Again, it's like those words.
Well, okay, they could be. Maybe they lived in a big city that had like a subway or something. Maybe
I don't
they
think
lived in a place where there was like an actual train stop right next to their church or something.
I don't know. I thought it was a weird detail because they seemed like they were pretty well off. I assume we know they have a car. It was weird to me. It was like I don't know. It was weird. So while this is happening, Drummond shows up to Irving's apartment, and he just has a key to get in.
Lets himself in, starts rummaging through Irving's things.
Yes, and this is right around where it's like, what the fuck? This whole dinner was staged to get Irving away from the house. It had to be, right?
I think you're right because of something we'll talk about in a minute.
Because you know that like if he leaves, they can just get on the phone and be like, he's on his way back.
Yeah.
So not only does Drummond have a key to his front door, he has a key to his chest with all of his secret documents.
Mm-hmm.
Because you might remember Irving's Audi is doing reconnaissance on Lumen and has all this information about severed employees. And he's able to just open it. And there's a really ominous shot of Drummond reading the documents. And you're like, holy shit, what just happened? Like, what did he find out?
I actually paused just because I wanted to read what all he was going through. And like Irving and Dylan are listed on there.
Yes.
I don't think either of them has like definite information, but like
most of the names are from the production and crew that they just kind of borrowed.
Yeah, and there's like dates of severance and how long they've been with the company.
Did you see the one that was in a car accident?
I think I did, but I don't remember it.
One of them, and there's a handwritten note that he was in a car accident, and then that led to a lawsuit against Lumen. And it was over an incorrectly placed stop sign. Oh. And then next to the handwritten note, did car crash lead to severance? Oh. Which made me a little curious because Miss Casey apparently died of a
car crash.
Right.
Yeah.
So Gretchen lies to Dylan about their visit because I think she's starting to feel quite a bit of shame over it. Okay, so Mark goes to Chinese, to the Chinese restaurant called Zufu.
Yeah.
And is eating his fucking guts out.
Yeah, he has like 4 or 5 plates on the table. He's just shoveling fried rice in.
What do you know? Just like the biggest coincidence ever.
Elena shows up.
Helena Egan is there. And of course this was planned.
Like Mark kind of looks up over like does a double take and is like,
yeah. And then like back down his spoon.
Yeah.
So she comes over and she talks, and they talk about Mark's wife, and she gets his wife's name wrong, which I think was on purpose.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. That's the feeling that I got. She calls her Hannah.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, it was Gemma. And she's like, oh, okay.
So there's so many possibilities about this one line of dialogue, which is part of what makes this a brilliantly written show.
Well, what do you think that she's doing? Because I have a little bit of a theory.
Yeah. I don't know, because like,
you can hear my theory?
Sure.
I think she suspects that Mark's reintegrating. Okay. And I think she was trying to get some details wrong.
So you think reintegration is something that Lumen knows about?
Well, you know that they know about it as a possibility, but they assume that that you can't do it though, because in season 1, when Cobell was trying to convince the board that PD had been reintegrated, they're like, it's the board's position that reintegration isn't possible. So they know about it as a concept.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where, like if he had said, well, no, it was Miss Casey or something, then she would have known. Though I'm not sure he would have said that if he was fully integrated anyway.
Yeah.
It seemed tactical. Her misnaming his wife seems tactical.
The possibilities that occur to me, number one, she genuinely got the name wrong, which seems unlikely because she wouldn't just happen to be at the same Chinese restaurant.
Right. No, she was there. She was there on purpose. Yeah.
Number two is she's trying to like get him off guard and make him think that she messed up and forgot the name.
He just doesn't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Number three, I guess, is what you said. She suspects he might be reintegrated.
She's probing to see what his response would be.
Trying to figure out what he knows. I guess fourth possibility, this doesn't relate to that specific line, but like they were kind of flirting there for a minute. And she was like, hey, maybe you should come by and meet my dad. And he's like, oh, we're at that stage in our relationship.
Which, by the way, I think this was Mark just seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he's just playing along like, this is awkward. Can you please leave so that I can pay my bill and go?
Because we know that Mark knows who Helena is. and that she's like the head of Lumen.
Yeah, I mean, like he recognizes her immediately.
And Mark's enemy right now is Lumen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think he'd be trying to get in the boss's daughter's pants. I think he was just kind of rolling with the tone a little bit, But something weird happens. Did you notice this? Where Helena looks at him and they do they push on Helena's face. And there's something that like ghosts across her face. It's one of those. This actor, by the way, is so good. Something colors her face for a second, some emotion, and it like snaps Mark out of it, where he's like, "I gotta go," and it's so weird, and I don't know what it is. And it's one of those things where like less capable actors wouldn't have made this scene so like weird and creepy and like where you like look at like the micro expressions that they're making and shit,
A less confident show that had less faith in its actors and its writing.
They put it in the dialogue.
Yeah.
They spell it out.
This would have happened much faster.
Yeah.
But with Severance, they know they have really good actors,
right.
So they like
they can show and not tell you.
They can let the camera linger on their face for like a really long time, and it's enthralling because the actors are showing you what's going on,
and they know how to control every second of you looking at them. I know exactly what you mean. It is really great. So something changes and he leaves, and he gets in his car and he fucks off.
Yes.
So back at dinner with Bert and Fields, there's this weird slip up, and there's a discrepancy with Fields about Bert's employment dates. Because Fields says that Bert has been at Lumen for 20 years, but Severance has only been around for like 12 years. And then Fields asks the question of the night.
Did your two innies fuck?
Yeah. And Bert's like, what the fuck?
We don't know. That's the point of being innies.
Yeah. I thought we talked about this. We weren't going to bring this up. And he's like, well, okay. So
look, innies are complete people. Like if they can go to heaven and hell, then they also deserve love. Right. So I hope that, you two...
I hope it was great.
Yeah. I hope you two fucked. I hope it was fantastic.
But also it really bothers me. It clearly is getting at me. Yeah. Because he brings up a pretty good point, which is like, if you guys fucked, it was probably without protection, and I deserve to know. Like, and...
I mean, this is one of the perils of polycule life.
This whole thing is so weird. The whole thing is weird. So Mark comes home and tells Ragabi that he like this.
Sorry for being a dick. Let's do it. Fucking stick your needle in
this
my
conversation with Helena has convinced him. He's like, let's flood the chip. Let's fucking do it. And she does. They do a little bit of body horror, medical stuff, cuts his head open, sticks a needle in, floods the chip. And Mark, there's this beautiful musical cue. Did you hear this? Yeah. Where it's like this, it's like this quasi-religious resolution, and it's like things kind of like fall into place a little bit, and then he starts glitching, right? And he's not in a good place health-wise. Like he's clammy and sweaty, and he just had a needle in his brain and shit. And there's a knock on the door, and I thought it was going to be Helena, and I was like, "Oh God, oh no, oh no!"
When I heard the voice from the door, that's who I thought it was initially.
Me too, yeah. So it turns out it's Devin, his sister.
Yeah.
So she comes in. She's like, "Okay, I've been thinking about how to get at Lumen. I have this new idea, and it involves the pregnant lady from season 1 that I was kind of crushing on a little bit." And Mark's like, "Look, you need to fuck off. I have this own thing that I'm pursuing, and I'm gonna do it without you." And she's like, "You're the worst brother in the world. You're such a douche sometimes, really." And he gets
while they're fighting, Mark just sort of keels over.
Yeah, he has a seizure, I think, because he's like drooling at the mouth,
like foaming at the mouth even.
I like how Ragabi comes up from the basement, and Devin is like, Who is this
fuck
bitch?
Are you?
And she's like, "I don't have time. Don't touch him." And she's like,
"What?
Why is there a lady in your basement?" Why does she seem to be a medical doctor?
Yeah.
So Bert and Irving say goodbye, and Bert apologizes for Fields' fuzziness about the dates. Yeah. And he's like, "Look, Fields he's old as fuck. He's got a little Alzheimer's going. He gets a little fuzzy about stuff. That's why he said that I've been working there for 20 years when we both know that I've only been working there for 12 years or whatever." And Irving just takes it in stride. Mm-hmm. But I think it's pretty clear to the audience that he's trying to cover up the mistake, that maybe Fields had a little bit too much to drink and let slip some details or got a fact wrong that they were supposed to not get wrong. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't seem like Irving has caught on to them yet. And it's either because he has, and everything we know about Irving so far is that maybe he's a spy or something.
He's pretty sharp.
Like he also seems like he's trained for certain situations. Mm-hmm. Or that part of his innie that's in love with Bert is like coming through, and he's just kind of blinded by it all.
Because but before he goes, Irving's like, no, I had fun. We should do this again. And Bert's like, really? Like the three of us, or just like the two of us, or
like, I don't know. What are you up for?
Yeah.
Let's start with two of us, and then maybe do three after. I don't know. I've never done this before.
So they say goodbye. Irving goes down to his car, and there's this shot of Christopher Walken.
Dude, Christopher Walken
the door.
has one of the most prolifically epic faces.
Yeah,
and even.
But as he's watching Bert, his expression gets kind of menacing.
Yeah, but it's all of them do this, where the emotions are never outright over the top. It is a gentle coloring of emotion that doesn't stay for long, but it sticks with you, right? Because you're like, oh, that's evil, Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
I've seen that look before, but it doesn't last for that long, and that's the end of the episode. Which, like, I maybe suspected that. I should probably stop fucking with this. I was suspecting that maybe. Bert's Audi was maybe not a great guy. I don't know.
Well, the previous episode we saw him like pull up on Irving in the phone booth and be real creepy about it. Like his car was in the shadows and all that, like, which is a hint that maybe he's not up to the best of intentions here.
I've seen some fan theories about how, like, he used to work at Lumen in a higher position, like maybe he had a job similar to Droman's job or something, and they're even though he's retiring, they're using him because they know that Bert will respond, or Irving will respond to it in a certain way. I don't know, but I know that even in this episode, which in lesser shows would probably be accused of being a filler episode, this episode was anything but, and had a ton of shit in it that manages to do some character and plot development, but also make you more uncertain about where it's going. And it just, it's every week. I think we've said this so far. The show is just fucking brilliant. It's great. Real quick. Tyrone says, "Hey guys, what's up, Tyrone?" And then Nate says, "Hello, Chris / Jedi." I think this guy thinks my name is Jedi, which is fine. How are we doing tonight? We're doing great, man. Yeah. Thanks for asking. And then Chris, not you, other Chris, says, "May the force be with you, Daniel and Chris. I hope you are both having a good night." It is a pretty good night. Yeah. And then my friend Ben says, "It's not true," and I'm not sure what he means. We were accused of having too many inside jokes the other day.
Okay.
Because sometimes we laugh at things that we've joked about.
Yeah.
And it makes us, I won't get into it, but it has been known to make one person uncomfortable.
Ah.
So, let's talk about Invincible, shall we?
Okay.
So that was episode 5, I think, right? Invincible, season 3, episode 5, which is Mark wants to fuck Eve, but there's never enough time or space.
So like, hey, let's just get an apartment.
Yeah.
Because this is what you do when you're young and stupid in your first big relationship.
Right. Because they're like, 10 minutes into this relationship?
Yeah.
And he's like, let's move in together. And you're like, oh, dude.
This is kind of weird.
Yeah. Because they keep trying to bone, and his mom keeps walking along.
Also, why can't they just fly to Eve's treehouse and fuck there?
I don't know. It does kind of seem like the perfect fuck pad. I'm not sure why they. Or I don't really know. But
Anyway,
they don't have a lot of money, I guess.
So Eva's like, hang on, let's become small business entrepreneurs. Let me just hire you out to the prison to be their superhero on retainer.
Yeah, which I guess Eve is now Mark's pimp.
I guess. A little bit.
But it works because he's basically, it's like, okay, at this superhero prison, there's like an escape attempt every week, and you have Mark come in and stop it. And he does a couple of times. Yeah. And there's this whole thing with the rock guy who...
Titan.
Who is supposed to be breaking this... what's her name's brother?
Multipole.
Yeah. If my friend Monty was here right now, he'd like... Because he's been trying to get me to read the comics. Because from what I can tell, everyone I've ever heard talk about it really loves the comics. But I'm hesitant to read them until... like I'm done watching the show, but I guess the show might go on for the next 20 years.
3 or 4 seasons, I think the writer said.
Total or more?
More. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't even know. But anyway, he probably knows all their names and shit.
Anyway, so Titan shows up and is like, look, Invincible, I need you to do me a real big favor. I need this guy out of prison because if we don't do that, then the Order is going to kill me and get someone worse into this city, and they're going to like you see this neighborhood, it's prosperous, there's no one shooting anybody, the kids are going to school,
including my daughter.
Yes. If I die and I get replaced with someone else, all that's going to go to shit. There's going to be drug wars in the streets and everything, and you don't want that.
He's like, you know what, I don't not want that, so you're going to prison. And he's like, God damn, you're pretty,
you're such a dick,
you're pretty and you're strong, but you're such a fucking idiot. Fucking Mark, dude.
There's a couple of side plots here where Oliver sneaks out at night, and Mark's like, oh shit, I gotta follow him, and he and Eve follow him. Doesn't kill a group of bullies, which my first thought was, oh, these guys are getting holes punched through them. That was my fear. Yeah, like Oliver's just hanging out with his friends and skateboarding, and then these teenagers
in the middle of the night apparently,
and Oliver makes a fist, and you're like, oh god, he's gonna punch him in the face, and no, he just pantses him.
Which, good for him.
Yeah.
And I like how their response was, fuck, a kid with powers, we're out of here.
He's purple.
Yeah.
You can see that he's purple.
Yeah.
Why are you fucking with that in a world where you know superpowers exist?
The one cool thing is that the friends he's hanging out with don't seem to really care.
Yeah, they don't give a shit.
They don't care about his purpleness or his powers, because they're doing skateboard tricks, and they're like, you flew when you did that. That's not fair. And he's like, okay, I'll try to do it the other way. Also,
Rex
gets a meal kit from
somebody and makes
Blue
this
Spoon
dinner for Ray, and she's like, oh, that's sweet, and they're like, hey, let's drink some of the Immortals wine that we stole when we were leaving. Oh god, it's vinegar. Fuck that.
It's really terrible. So there's a big breakout, and the dragon guy turns into a dragon, and so there's a big fight between Mark and the dragon,
and it doesn't go very well.
The dragon's kind of tougher than I thought he'd be,
but fortunately, Tech Head, whatever his name is, the
computer head,
that guy,
the guy that has the auto-tune voice,
he busts out of prison, teleports back to where the old dude from the Order is, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna shoot that guy, and he shoots him, and the dragon goes away.
And then he's like kind of engineered this whole thing now where
now he's in charge of the Order,
right?
Titan is still in charge of the city,
that part of the city,
but is no longer part of the Order,
right.
and Technology Head is like, you know what? I like the cut of your jib, so I'll allow it only this once. However, if you fuck me over again, I will kill you and your entire family.
Right. And in the end, Mark decides he's going to stay in his mom's house because he doesn't want to stick her with raising, what's his name, all by herself.
And Eva's like, that's good because we were going way too fast with this shit.
She was like, you wanted us to move in together, and we literally started dating 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
So
that's a little weird, man.
I was going to break up with you if you got an apartment. I was just waiting to see what happened. And I like how his mom, at the end, is like, Mark,
oh, thank God,
I know you're fucking your girlfriend. And he's like, we are
I do not want to talk about this.
We're not talking about this.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider.
Yes, two episode season finale, which was a lot of fun. Some players come in. We learned that the inciting incident for Spider-Man,
it was a time loop.
It was a whole time loop the whole time. Venom comes through, and a piece of him gets stuck.
Yep. Let's just count all the hooks for season 2 that they put in the last 10 minutes.
Oh, we've got.
So there was the Watcher. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did. I did notice the Watcher. Yes.
There was Venom. There was.
We've got Doc Ock in his arms.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was Nico with her magic powers,
which was kind of. I didn't realize that she literally is like, no, I can do magic.
Yeah. There is Tombstone, who's
like turning colors now.
Yep. He's in charge of the gang.
Yeah.
Because he's quitting school for good.
There's the one kid
Richard Parker.
Oh,
Peter's
his father,
dad, who's
right,
alive
yes.
and in prison.
Yes.
What were you gonna say?
The one kid at the internship, the really cocky, annoying one.
Oh yeah, Finesse.
Yeah,
working with Daredevil. Is that all?
Well, no, that was the girl at the internship. No, this is the guy.
Amadeus Cho?
Yes, who is I think is about to be up to something. I can't remember.
Probably.
Yeah, they are certainly planning on a season 2, yes. And you know what? I hope they do it because I enjoyed season 1 quite a bit. The plot never. I mean, I think this time loop thing was as complicated as the plot ever got, and I think that was by design. I think it's more of a comic, comics for kids.
I feel like this is aimed more at kids and young teenagers.
Yeah, which I enjoy quite a bit.
Like that's everyone deserves media that's targeted to their age.
So yeah, I hope they do some more, and that'll be great. Ben says Invincible's peak fiction. We've been enjoying it quite a bit actually, and Mark is hot, like damn. And I think that's a good place to stop our podcast on that quote. Mm-hmm. We are going to get together here in a few minutes for some Battlefront, so come and check that out. We'll be participating in Battlefront weekend.
Battlefront
Day, which is 2 days.
Which is like 3 days long.
Yeah. So come and join us for that. It'll be a lot